That's the Lake Minnewanka tree. It's kind of a bit of a famous tree, I suppose, for this lake. You see it in a lot of compositions, but I'm not going to shoot that today because it looks a little tired to me. I think it's seen better days. But there's lots of compositions down here at Lake Minnewanka, and after a while of not really using them, I think I'm back on the filter train. As is always the way in the Rockies, the light's coming up and I'm not really prepared. And obviously it looks like the light would be really good over at Two Jack Lake right now, which is not where I've decided to come this morning. Looks like Rundle's getting some really nice soft light on it over here. And I haven't got a composition anywhere near ready either. There's always so much potential down here at Lake Minnewanka, but it always feels like a struggle. Wow, that was absolute chaos. I just kind of ran down the lake to a composition I actually eyed up on the way past this morning and took a picture on my phone. But God, I need to get better at this. That organisation was absolutely terrible. I didn't really think much was going to happen in regards to light this morning, but the sunrise was actually pretty decent. And to be honest with you, I kind of missed the best of it, but I think I've got something here. So now that panic is somewhat over, I'll talk you through my composition this morning. So rather than staying over where that Lake Minnewanka tree is and kind of all those rocks, I came back down the beach, but you can see here where my camera is set up, we've got this really nice kind of leading line of cracked textured rock. And I've also got a kind of a chain, and I suppose what might be like a boat tie off ring, like an old rusty ring. And I've got that right in the corner of my frame. And that kind of leads out to the left, and then the rocks lead forward. And then we've got the cabins in the lake, and then also that's where the colour in the sky was. So I'm trying a bit of a combination of a couple of different things. I've shot the foreground and the kind of floating dock or the cabins. I've shot that at normal exposures and a faster shutter speed so that I can kind of freeze the action because those boat docks will be wobbling a little bit. And I want to combine those faster foreground and background shots with longer exposures of the water and the sky. And I'm talking really long exposures, like 5-6 minute exposures. And that's something I haven't been doing recently. But this morning I've been using filters to achieve those long exposures. And I kind of haven't bothered with filters much in the last couple of years, really. But just recently I've changed my mind on that. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why I've changed my mind. So more recently, I've been using magnetic filters, and that's definitely the key word here is magnetic. There's lots of different companies that do these magnetic filters. These ones are from Freewell, they're their M2 5-pack. They are pretty reasonable in price, but for a full disclaimer, I was sent these filters from Freewell. But weirdly, they just sent me an email asking if I wanted some, and they haven't actually requested that I do any form of video or review about these filters. However, I've actually been really impressed by the quality of these, and even in regards to the packaging and the case they come in and the ease of use. So I thought I wanted to talk a little bit about it and why now I find myself using filters more and more regularly. And like I said, it really is that magnetic part that makes them so usable. So in the recent past, I've kind of been too lazy to use filters, especially here in the Canadian Rockies. Like, screwing them on is a pain in the arse, and it is very, very cold here in winter. So having to take gloves off or get your fingers out to kind of screw filters on and off has just made it not worth even trying. But one great thing about doing those really, really long exposures is even on days which you're not getting maybe much light or it's later in the day and you're kind of past golden hour, you can really get lots of dramatic cloud movement by doing 4-minute, 6-minute, 8-minute exposures. And it leads to some really nice effects. So I've just not really been bothering doing that. But these little filters are so easy just to pop on and pop off. It's kind of like you might as well just give it a go. And look at just how satisfying these magnetic filters are to put on. So even with a scene like this, that now the kind of morning light's gone, it's relatively mediocre. You kind of got a little bit of a reflection. We've got a nice mountain. But I think what will really make this picture work is a really long exposure. So I'm going to go for a 6-minute exposure to get some movement in the sky, just to add a little bit more dynamicness to it, I suppose. And without filters, you can do this in post, and I've made videos about that in the past, but this is probably better to do. And again, those filters are so easy to use that I might as well whilst I'm here. When doing super long exposures like this, you might end up with a bit of noise or some kind of sensor hotspots. So a top tip, like I did with that first composition this morning, is what you want to do, you kind of want to shoot your image on normal ISO settings, normal shutter speed settings without the filter, and then do the long exposure afterwards. So then you've got both. So you can use your super long exposure for movement in the water, movement in the sky, but then you've got sharper, cleaner details of your background subjects, your foreground, and even anything that might be moving, like little boats bobbing in the water. So definitely shoot both, even if you're not comfortable at first editing those together. And even if you don't end up doing so, you'll always have them to come back to if you feel like you need them. Just come around the lake a little bit further. I've never really shot from around here before, but this is probably where I should have been this morning. Got this nice little tree island in the centre here, a few kind of foreground rocks, but it would have been good for a big wide shot with the kind of pink clouds this morning. But still, trying some of those long exposures, they still work pretty nicely later in the day. I suppose you might be wondering, with these filters, do I get some colour casting? Yeah, definitely. Does it vignette a little bit on the wider side of your lens? Yeah, they do. And to be honest with you, I've struggled to find a filter that doesn't do that. Even if they're really expensive, like $200 or $300 a filter, you still kind of get that. And that was one of the reasons why I never really bothered using them. You'd kind of mess around screwing them and unscrewing them, and then you'd end up with an image that was pretty rubbish anyway and needed a lot of post work. So it just kind of made me think, why not just not use the filters in the field and just do the long exposure in post, if you're going to spend a lot of time editing it to get rid of all the artifacts anyway. But obviously magnetic, so easy, worth doing in the field. Then you've got it, and then you can kind of do that edit whilst you're in the warm, because you're not spending extra time out in the field adding those filters on. If you're an R6 owner or a Canon mirrorless owner, and you've not really used bulb mode before, this might be a really useful tip, and I'm a little bit embarrassed that I didn't actually know this before. If you want to do an exposure that's longer than 30 seconds on one of Canon's new mirrorless cameras, you first want to flip your dial to B for bulb. So whilst on bulb mode, if you go to the menu and make sure you're in this little kind of camera sub-menu, and then scroll over using the joystick to sub-menu 6 within the camera menu, and then if you go down you'll see bulb timer, and if you click into that you can see you have enable and disable. But if we press info, we can go in here and actually select how many minutes, hours or seconds we want our exposure to be. So 4 minutes, we can press set there, and then we want to make sure we press OK, otherwise it won't remember that. Make sure it still says the 4 minutes here. And then when you're in the normal mode here, you want to make sure you've got your 2-second timer on so you don't get any camera wobble. Press the button, it will count down 2 seconds, and then you'll just see on the bottom here, that will count down all the way to 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever you put it on. So you might kind of be wondering how they attach, or how any kind of magnetic filter attaches. Essentially, you get this kind of mounting ring which screws on, but that's the only time you have to screw it on. So I actually leave that on my camera all the time. Like, I never take it off this lens. And to be honest with you, I might even invest in a couple more of these just to have them on other lenses as well. But the wide angle is what I shoot most landscapes with, so it stays on there. And the great thing about that as well is this little kit actually comes with a magnetic lens cap. So when you're done, you just pop that on and it stays on pretty well. I haven't actually had that fall off randomly at all, even when carrying my camera just kind of attached to the side of my bag here. And to be honest with you, I think I've actually lost the proper Canon one now, so I don't know where that is, but that stays on all the time. And I can just pull that off. Switch in whatever I want. There's just a UV, ND filters, polarizers, whatever you need. You can just pop straight on there, no hassle. And they're super easy to stack. And I don't know if you've ever tried to screw together or screw apart two screw-on filters like a polarizer on top of an ND. If you cross-thread them, they're a nightmare to undo. So obviously these are super easy. You can just keep stacking them as much as you want. Stack the NDs, stack a polarizer on top of an ND. And like I said, you're not messing around trying to unscrew things or slide things in and out. That you might as well give it a go. Like, does it make the color casting worse? Yeah, of course it does. Does it make the vignetting worse? Absolutely. At 16mm, the vignetting is terrible if you stack the filters. But you know, it's so easy to do, you kind of might as well. And I find myself doing this more and more often, shooting with the polarizer, without the polarizer, shooting long exposures, short exposures. And then later on, I've got all the images that I need to kind of combine them together and add in polarized sections, blend in longer exposures, get rid of the vignetting with my kind of non-filtered image as well. But yeah, an absolute game changer having magnetic filters like this. So yeah, I am back on the filter train, and my opinion on them has really changed over the last 6 months. So if you've seen a video where I kind of say I don't use them or I don't use them very much, yeah, ignore that. I've been using these more and more regularly, and it's mainly due to their ease of use and the fact that they just come in this really nice little leather case that you can just kind of open up, and then you've got all your filters just inside. So they're really small and compact and easy to take with you, which is really important to me because I'm often hiking when I'm out doing photography or traveling, and I want a small filter kit that I can just pop in my bag. So much better than those big slide-in ones in my personal opinion. The intention of this video wasn't for it to really be a review of these filters, but it's maybe kind of ended up a little bit that way. But if you do want to buy this kit, there is a link in the description below, which will help out the channel if you use that link. But any magnetic filters are going to make your life so much easier, and it opens up a door of creativity to be able to do long exposures and use polarizers, and to be able to do that quickly and easily. So yeah, check them out. But once again, thank you so much for watching.